Let's move on to an essay, a lengthy essay by Jim Chalmers to frame the year from his perspective. And it's a very busy time right now, of course, for him. He's got the inflation issue to manage, interest rates and the budget to prepare for May.
Yes, it's an interesting thing that's been introduced by Jim Chalmers into the political landscape, I guess, Kieran. During the election campaign and before, Prime Minister Anthony Albanese sought to reassure voters that when it came to the economy, his government was not a threat.
If Labor's successful in the coming federal election, I'll take my lead from Bob Hawke and his successor, Paul Keating. I'm not proposing a revolution.
Well, Treasurer Jim Chalmers set the hairs running when he speculated late last year that he might significantly overhaul the Stage 3 tax cuts promised before the election, before he backed off. Now he has produced an essay which appears to talk more about government intervention and pushing the economy in directions the government wants on issues like clean energy. The Australian Financial Review editorialised against this essay this morning with the rather blunt headline that Chalmers' new manifesto ignores all the lessons of Hawke and Keating, suggesting Mr Chalmers was taking up a kind of socialist agenda. Here are just some of the excerpts of this Chalmers essay, and I note that Robert Gottliebson in The Australian's been critical in a piece he's written this afternoon along similar lines. The Treasurer writes, "This year our institutions can draw on all the nation's talents. Governments and investors can be partners, not protagonists. Our local communities can gain choice and control over their own futures. And the same regulatory frameworks that ensure that for-profit capital in the private sector creates value for investors can generate public value in the for-purpose economy." Jim Chalmers goes on to write about values-based capitalism and says co-investment is a powerful tool at our disposal. The Clean Energy Finance Corporation has been a great success, partnering with investors to direct capital where it can have the greatest impact, not by subsidising returns, but by helping structure investment vehicles in a rapidly emerging economic sector. I go on, Jim Chalmers says we will employ this co-investment model in more areas of the economy with programs already underway in the industry, housing and electricity sectors. And he says, my optimism doesn't just come from the beginning of a new year. It comes from believing that amid all the difficulties, 2023 will be the year we build a better capitalism. Uniquely Australian, more confident and forward-thinking, more aligned with our values, based more on evidence and integrity. Well, I questioned on the weekend whether this was the best use of the Treasurer's time writing this essay when Australia's economy has many problems he needs to address, not the least of which is 7.8% inflation, which is driving interest rates higher and higher. And I was told that the Treasurer wrote this while he was on leave. Finance Minister Katie Gallagher was on radio this morning saying everyone should read Mr Chalmers' essay.
Yeah, well, I urge people to have a read of the essay by Jim. What it shows is we've got a Treasurer that thinks, and over the summer on his break, even though I was telling him to have a break, he was penning this essay. But essentially, when we look at the state of the budget, when we look at the things that we need to deal with, when you're looking at aged care, NDIS, housing, health, all of these areas where we have a shared national interest in dealing with them. It's not just Labor policies. These are all areas where I think the community expects us to deal with them, that there is opportunity to partner with the private sector about how we deal with some of these challenges.
Well, Deputy Liberal leader Susan Ley had a different view of Mr Chalmers' agenda today.
As power prices continue to rise, mortgage rates climb higher and groceries become even more expensive, instead of focusing on practical action to help Australians, Jim Chalmers has been spending his time penning 6,000-word ideological essays.
Kieran, I do feel that generally speaking there is a little bit of tension between Anthony Albanese and Jim Chalmers, with Chalmers pushing policy more to the left than Albanese, which is ironic given Albanese is from the left faction and Jim Chalmers is from the right. But the pair of them have certainly got on better in office than perhaps they did in opposition. Aligning some of the aspirations of Chalmers with the political realities that Albanese sees will be one of the most fascinating aspects of this term of government. There is a view in the Labor Party too that Mr Chalmers no doubt has an agenda to appeal to the Labor Party membership in order to one day get their votes for the leadership with this sort of foray into essay writing.